Welcome to Slow News Day. I'm Steve Poikinen. I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this evening by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, what's happening, man?
How goes it?
It goes. We were discussing our 4th of July's. I worked. You worked. You probably got holiday pay. I got to deny belligerent, half blacked out drunks alcohol. That was fun. That was fantastic. I don't know. Do you have anyone interesting on the bus there?
Everybody's interesting on a Greyhound bus.
That's true. I've been a Greyhound bus passenger. I can attest to just how fucking interesting I am.
It's like Baskin Robbins are crazy. It's awesome.
You're not wrong. I have, I've definitely seen some weird shit on a Grey Dog before. I went, we went Colorado to San Diego. We went Portland, Oregon to Austin, Texas to New Orleans.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Why you didn't like yourself, did you?
We had already mailed everything ahead, and it was cheaper than a train ticket by a lot. And the person that I was with would not get on an airplane.
Got it.
We didn't have a car. It was getting really cold in Portland. We were fucking like hotel room kids. Sold weed in the park kind of thing. Once upon a whim, fucking got a cover job at a bar. Got enough money to leave. Made an investment. Spent the rest on Greyhound tickets. Went to Jazz Fest. Had a good time. Man, when I grew up in Indiana, and there were a couple of times where we would go and pick morel mushrooms because they grow there like fucking crazy, and they're big and beautiful and fucking just A grade fucking, high-end cuisine fucking mushrooms.
Right.
We'd flash freeze them, drive down to New Orleans about 3 weeks before Jazz Fest, go around to all the 4- and 5-star restaurants and get them to bid over these motherfuckers.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's how we funded our Jazz Fest. It was by selling mushrooms. Brilliant. But not the illegal kind.
You sold shrooms, but not the fun kind.
We'll roll with that. So you hit me up with tonight's topic. So I'm gonna let you lead on it, but I've got a couple of fun little stories and prime examples of how this exists every day and how it can be and has been weaponized.
Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, people who don't prescribe to a binary gender assignment, there's a fun little thing that I was listening to inadvertently. I was listening to a podcast called You Are Not So Smart. Fantastic podcast. If you go on Apple, check it out. It's great. They deal with a lot of psychology. Awesome show. And they were talking about the Jonestown incident that occurred in Guyana back in the 70s. It was an insane situation that people are still trying to understand to this day. But there has been some recent research that has gone a long way to explain why these people committed suicide when most of them didn't want to. And that's called pluralistic ignorance. Google it. It's fantastic. I'll give the short and sweet definition to it and an example that will help everybody understand what I'm talking about because we've all exercised it in our lives at some point. The definition, which is fluid, there's a lot of different ways of defining pluralistic ignorance, but what it basically goes down to is quite simply it occurs when people erroneously infer that they feel differently from their peers, even though they are behaving similarly. One sentence covers it all. Now, the example that's going to go for that is, do you remember back when you were in school and you've gone, your teacher, your professor, whatever you want to go, doesn't matter what grade, would go through a long lecture explanation of a particular topic, and toward the end of it, that teacher, professor, whatever would say, does anybody have any questions? And you had a shit ton of questions because you understood only half of what was going on. But you look around the room and not a single person has raised their hand. Not one student has raised their hand to ask a question. So you, feeling like you'd be ostracized or mocked or ridiculed for being quote unquote stupid, or whatever name that you think you may have been called, you just don't even bother to raise your hand. And then the teacher slash professor, whatever, continues on with the class. And you walk out of it not knowing half of what the hell he or she was talking about. Pluralistic ignorance happens way too frequently. And I started seeing kind of a correlation to explain centrists. Besides wanting to protect their money, I see a lot of ignorance online on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, you name it, Snapchat even. Yeah, politics is creeped in the snap. Individuals who will defend people like Joe Biden, Senator Harris, Senator Klobuchar, excuse me, Mayor
Salad Cone.
Right. And even though their positions and ideology directly flies in the face of what they need in their lives, what would personally enrich them and their families. I question this about the Republican Party under Trump, and the same mentality goes. It's pluralistic ignorance. There are people who see within the Democrat Party who are like, no, this isn't right. This country is shifting left. Why are we still stuck to this centrist concept that has been failing since mid 80s? Why are we sticking to our guns on this failed, stupid neoliberalism that we run in this country? Why are we still jumping into international incidents? Why are we jumping into wars? Why are we still using oil as a form of energy? Why do we still have coal being dug up from the earth? All this stuff's wrong, but nobody else is saying anything. And if I raise my hand, does that make me a Marxist? If I speak up on it, does this make me a dirty commie? Does this make me some type of horrible human being that'll be ostracized from my group and I can't play with my friends anymore because I'm the weird one? It's one of those things that I think if we keep in mind, especially with this whole Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren bump after the debate, it's one of those things, if you watch the debate, they didn't do anything that was spectacular. They didn't do anything to quote unquote earn that bump. Joe Biden tripped all over himself and was an incompetent boob. After being in politics for 1,000 years, you would expect better. But there was nobody who really stood out and was like, oh, wow, this is an amazing candidate. We need to jump them up by 5 to 10%. And yet, look what happened. CNN, ABC, NBC, were singing the virtues and the praise of both Senators Warren and Harris. And the next thing you know, they get a 10 to 15% jump, even though there was no real reason for that to occur. Pluralistic ignorance. People want to feel like they're in the know, and they don't want to be shown to be ignorant.
This notion, I don't know if Chomsky put words to it to call it that, because what is it, the Peaks Moore or something like that study that created the term that was until 93, and manufacturing consent came out 88, 89, something like that. But it's that's what Mockingbird Media exists to do, is was manufactured consent, now manufactured confusion, and it depends on weaponized pluralistic ignorance. That's what narrative control is. That's when you see our good friend Pat the Burner tweet out here's Zerlina Maxwell and Neera Tanden on fucking somebody's show, on Lawrence O'Donnell's show, and they're reading off Nate Silver's fucking polling predictions, and they're there to talk about how electable Biden, Warren, and Harris are, and never once mention fucking Bernie Sanders' name. And he's like, this is fucking propaganda. It's like, good for you, Pat. You're fucking, yes, absolutely. But what it also does is it guarantees that pluralistic ignorance. It guarantees that when you're trying to talk to someone in real life about real issues and real shit, and they click to, oh, Elizabeth Warren has a plan for that. Like, I know you just shake, but
well, see, the funny part is that I was all over Twitter on this, and I became semi-popular again for mentioning this. Elizabeth Warren's housing plan included 10% decrease in rent and mortgages, I believe, over 10 years. And I pointed out something simple that even you don't have to be an economist to figure this out. 10 years of inflation will counteract 10% of a cut in a span of 10 years. Now, they didn't say 10% this year, 10% next year, 10% so on. It was 10% at the end of 10 years. Adjusting for inflation, Elizabeth Warren is doing nothing. She's putting something on paper that looks like a cut, but is really nothing at all, accounting for inflation that's going to occur in the next decade. So what type of affordable housing plan is that? And yet people jumped all over it, saying it was just the greatest thing on the face of the planet, because of the fact that nobody wants to look like the dumb one. But then
not accounting for the fact that overall cost of living is projected to increase 19%, and that overall wages have increased on average like 1% or 1.5% tops. Not counting that. 10% over 10 years, if average rent, and this is what Esha got her numbers a little fucked up, right? But people jumped all over her shit about how bold and fascinating and brilliant this idea was. And it's like, look, dude, okay, but if use $1,500 a month as an example, that's 18 grand a year. 10% of that is $1,800 over 10 years. It's $180 a year, or $15 a month that you would be saving over the course of a decade, while your cost of rent is going up. Is that $15 going to matter to fucking anyone? Anyone who needs it, at least.
Nope. And that's the thing. And then the sad part with pluralistic ignorance is its dark side. Those that took the original position of joining in and there's been study after study after study that's occurred with this, and it's terrifying, actually. Everybody in the room knows it's not the right answer. But if you're to be the one who stands up and goes, no, this is the correct answer, or yes, I do have a question, or whatever, you're going to find all those other people who are equally confused or equally not liking the situation as is, will jump all over the person who's telling the truth. I mean, the way it was explained as an example was in The Emperor's New Clothes, when the kid points out that the emperor is naked while everybody else is admiring the fashion sense of this particular emperor, that everybody in the crowd turns on the kid and says, you're a fucking moron. What are you talking about? He's wearing the greatest clothes ever, and that's the one person who sees the truth. They turn on that person. So there's also the fear of that. Nazi Germany. I don't know if you remember watching the tail end of Band of Brothers, but when they go into, I forget if it was by Auschwitz. I don't remember the town name Auschwitz, but they go in and they're disgusted by what they see. They go to the nearest town to round up the townspeople to help bury the dead and do the necessary work to getting that situation, that horrible situation, sanitary, not fixed, not cleaned up, or just sanitary so disease doesn't spread. And one of the soldiers goes in and he's really pissed. He has every right to be. He's of Jewish descent. He sees what's going on. He's a member of the tribe. I mean, I get it. And he's pissed. He holds a gun up to one of the locals' heads, who says constantly in German, I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know this was happening. And the soldier was getting more and more pissed. And he was about to shoot him when somebody else stopped him and said, dude, he's saying he doesn't know. And then his retort was, how could this piece of shit not know what was happening? That's the thing is you can have that level of ignorance, but because you don't want to stand out from the crowd and you don't want to look different and you don't want to be ostracized, you go with the crowd, even though you know it's wrong. And unfortunately, you could be ignorant of the situation or you can have full knowledge of the situation and think it's reprehensible and horrible. You wind up going with the crowd and supporting something that's absolutely horrendous. And I really feel like this is an approach the left needs to start looking at when dealing with centrists, when dealing with liberals, and trying to explain to them, not so much in a confrontational bash fash type situation, even though I'm pro bash fash, but try to understand, have them understand, okay, look, we get it. You don't pay attention to politics as much as those of us on the left. You don't. You're not as well versed. You take people at their word. You're trying to see the good side of these politicians. And when they utter their nonsense, it sounds really good, and that's going to help a whole bunch of people. But in the end, if you do a little bit of critical thinking, you'll come to the realization that all it is nonsense and bullshit to get elected. We need to start hand-holding, because these centrists, they the slightest whiff of fascism, which we already have, and historically speaking, centrists and liberals will jump over to the fascist side. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. We need to curtail that. We need to nip that in the bud right now, and being confrontational with centrists and pointing out nothing we said is a lie. Nothing we said about them supporting neoliberalism, slavery, economic, social, and just justice, inequality. None of that stuff is inaccurate. It's any of the critiques that we've given to the centrists and liberals of this country, spot on. I haven't seen one that is totally absurd yet. But instead of taking that tone, the automatic confrontational, you're an absolute imbecile, you need to get all three of your brain cells in order so that we can have a conversation type of approach, it doesn't seem to be working when we have Senator Biden, apparently buddies with segregationists, Elizabeth Warren, whose math skills are reprehensible at best, and Senator Kamala Harris, who loves to prosecute poor people as the top three picks of the Democratic presidential primaries.
So the new word around the campfire, too, by the way, is that all of Biden's donors are starting to meet with Kamala Harris, and they're going to siphon that adrenochrome and child-fueled energy away from Joe Biden and over towards Kamala Harris, and that they're going to prop up Elizabeth Warren and hang her out to dry. And I can see that. I absolutely can. I keep telling people that I'll be surprised if Joe Biden's there, like, either at or past Iowa.
Right. We called that last year, Steve.
Yeah.
We called that. We already said that Elizabeth Warren's sole purpose was to siphon off Bernie Sanders' support. That's
well, so this brings up a point that I don't know if it's been like articulated this way, at least on this show. I don't know if anybody else has articulated it this way, but because we're talking about pluralistic ignorance tonight, if you know that Cenk Uygur is a fucking grifter, and you know that Anna Kasparian is a fucking clout-chasing, fucking disingenuous human being, and you know that Emma Vigeland is ready to stab Anna over and over and over again if it means she gets to be Elizabeth Warren's press secretary, and you know that fucking Jimmy Dore had to buy his name back in order to have full rights to his own show. At what point do the affiliates that are still there become part of pushing this pluralistic ignorance? At what point do people who are saying you can reform the Democratic Party from the inside become like stated, if not paid actors or willing participants from like Jenks level of it, at least fucking participants in fucking hope porn produced by Mockingbird Media?
I took a position years ago that you could reform the Democrat Party from within, that if enough socialists get involved, we could turn the Democratic Party on its head. I was so naive to think that I could do that.
I was gonna say, was that like the era of hypercolor clothing and
Nope.
fucking
it would be
we're like, oh shit, fight the powers out. Let's push Bobby McFerrin on some motherfuckers. Don't worry. Be happy, motherfucker. Be happy. Be happy. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
No, it'd be 2007, really. Toward the tail end of Bush, and there was an opening after neoliberalism was running amok, in which socialism had a slight uptick. More people were starting to think like me, and I was happy about that. And I was like, well, if we take this and we jump into one of the two major parties, the duopoly, and we're able to act as a virus, then we could actually have a party that represents the people as a member of the duopoly. And Jesus Christ, was I wrong. I figured that out in 2 years that I was wrong. And it was, at what point would they become complacent is your question? The moment that they said it out loud. Because there's those of us who are Marxists who was working on it for a lot longer and a lot earlier than these people. And it hasn't yielded any results. And we've been public about those results. We've said that it can't be done because we tried it. And before people like jump on the comment section and be like, oh, well, you didn't try hard enough, or you didn't try this avenue, or you didn't try that, that's irrelevant. Multiple attempts through multiple channels, through multiple groups, tried to make the Democrat Party an actual party of the people. And it was met with resistance because of money, and because of wealthy interests, and because of who runs the Democrat Party. And after 2016, if anybody's saying that the Democratic Party can be reformed, then you're absolutely one of the most ignorant people on the face of the planet, or you're a grifter. Because we saw what happened with the Sanders crowd, and we see what's continuing to happen to the Sanders crowd. And it's one of those things at the end of the day where there's the only good Democrat Party is a dead Democrat Party. Same thing with the Republicans. The only good members, or excuse me, the only good party system or duopoly there is no duopoly.
Yeah, there's a line in a Coup song called Ride the Fence. And he says, I'm anti-Republican and Democratic. If they both self-imploded, it'd be anticlimactic. And I kind of feel that way, you know?
Right.
Like, it's I can relate to that as well as pretty much everything else that Boots Riley has put out below these long and bountiful years of fucking... Oh, and he's getting another movie. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't.
It won't be like a Sorry to Bother You sequel, but he's getting to write a different flick now. So that's good news to me. I've got at least one good friend that was an extra in Sorry to Bother You. They shot like in her neighborhood and all around. Fucking her kid was in it and shit like so. You know.
Right on.
Yeah. Anywho. Accidental and random play. Oh, I'm gonna do this too, but when the next time that Brooke Hines is on, I'm gonna have her do the impression. But there's a fucking, I gotta say, like powerful 10 Black, powerful 10 Black. All right.
That's the best thing ever.
Maybe somebody will get that joke. But yeah, when Brooke does it in her Rogan voice, it'll be better.
Oh,
but I think like at least like every week or so, somebody's gonna have to do a Joe Rogan impression, say "powerful Tim Black."
I'll work on it.
Yeah.
I'll work on it.
Again, so look, the duopoly. We live in a fucking cartoon. This duopoly, this oligarchy, whatever the fuck you want to call it, this fucking, cabal of Luciferian pedophiles or whatever you want to call it, whatever.
You're on one today, Steve. I like how you slipped that in.
I tell people all the time, like, the problem with geopolitical conspiracies is that no matter where you start, it ends at Luciferian pedophiles around the world. And, like, you can be like, well, how come Elizabeth Warren got $2 million from the securities and financial industry while she was creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Why did that happen? And did you eventually wind up Yenny?
It always comes back to pedophiles fucking the world up since the beginning of time.
Anywho, you have this pluralistic ignorance, this idea that this party represents half the people and this other party represents half the people. And even though you can look at the numbers and you're like, well, it's 46 people are independent and that's not a lot of other leftover people, and they're split in half. And shit, there's more of us than there are of them. And, so then they got to push other shit on you to distract you. Christmas is one of those things. Everyone fucking hates Christmas. Like, I get that there are a handful of people that are the exception to the rule that go fucking mental over the holiday. I understand that. I do. But I fucking put forth Jason Carney that they're the exception to the rule and that the rest of us fucking hate Christmas, but we participate in it because we don't want to be ostracized. If you've ever been to a store where Christmas things are sold, the looks on the people, the faces that work there are that of utter fucking misery. Borderline suicidal individuals, and the ones that aren't are on drugs.
There's no argument. There was a movie I think called Jingle All the Way, where the entire point of the movie, I forget the name of I don't remember the name of it, but I knew it had Tim Allen in it and it had Jamie Lee Curtis, and it was during Christmas time, and they didn't want to sell. They had gotten all their kids out of the house and off to college or whatever, and they finally just wanted to take a vacation during Christmas, and they were ostracized by the neighborhood. They were all like, "Oh, how could you? Don't you want to, put up Christmas decorations? Don't you want to sing carols? Don't you want to do this? Don't you want to do that?" And they were, toward the end of the movie, they found the Christmas spirit again. But essentially what it was taking what two people wanted, was to not be involved with something that they didn't like to begin with. They wanted to take a tropical vacation during the Christmas holidays. And they were shamed into doing what everybody else did. That is perfect example of pluralistic ignorance.
Through the miracle of peer pressure and marketing.
Right. And at the end of the day, everybody else, you can tell that there was some envy in those people's eyes. They were like, "Oh, that's fucking brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I do that?" But then they would come around and be like, "Oh, you don't love that Christmas feeling. You don't love the snow. You don't love," and they just kept shaming these two people until they finally broke and were like, "Oh, we love Christmas. Oh, we're gonna go ham on it." And it was such a stupid movie.
Gosh, you're right.
Secondly, it's a prime example of pluralistic ignorance.
We're going to apply a false narrative to whitewashed memories and go ahead and cozy up to that bottle of bourbon as soon as these motherfuckers get out of my house. No, I fucking...
That's what I mean. But again, it's incumbent upon us to see how we go after these centrists. And when I say go after, I don't mean violently. We have to have conversations with centrists and liberals because they truly don't understand. They think being liberal means that they're all loving of all people, regardless of sex, race, sexual orientation. They believe that war is bad, but there's some conditions where it's okay. they're not necessarily against the death penalty, but think it's really mean. Um, freedom of speech is acceptable to a point. Um, the Fourth Amendment applies unless you're a really bad guy. Voting Rights Act, you know, aren't we in a post-racist society? Why do we need a VRA? Why do we need the ERA? Why do we need any of these other equality measures? We've all grown. They're either really dumb or really naive about what's going on in the rest of the world, and that's why they're liberals. They can't.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with existing within an informational bubble intentionally. It's because there are choices now in where you can get your media, even though 6 companies own 95% of all U.S. media. People think that they can go and, like, I don't know, read Vox and be woke, or read, let's say, whatever. What do you know what Tucker Carlson's rag is?
Fox.
No, the website.
Oh no, I don't go anywhere near that.
Okay, I want to say it's like the Blaze or something like that.
Oh yeah, the Blaze. Oh yeah, he was working with Glenn Beck's outfit, the Blaze.
Yeah, and they're owned by fucking oh god damn it. He fucking bought Trump too. He was like Trump's main donor. I can't fucking remember what his goddamn name is.
Lewandowski?
No, donor. Maybe Bob Kraft, but not Bob Kraft. I don't know. It'll come to me. At any rate, what they are fucking little subsidiary companies, little fucking shell companies for people that fucking own all the other fucking media companies. Like, there's very, very few outlets that are truly independent. And most of those people are shooting from their houses or garages or fucking, shit like that, dude. But they'll read it, and they'll agree that, like, most of regular cable television or network television is bullshit. They'll agree with that, but what they won't see is that there's fucking a ridiculous amount of propaganda that reinforces that narrative in every other show that they consume.
I don't disagree, but I do have to catch myself in the interest of transparency, integrity, and honesty for this particular show, and myself included. I just went on a spiel about how we need to not club liberals over the head, and I found toward the tail part of what I just said previously, right before Steve spoke, that I was clubbing liberals over the head by mocking their naivety or absolute ignorance. Let me walk that one back for a second, because I'm a little troubled by it. It's difficult, as you can tell, to try to go with this pluralistic ignorance component and trying to reach out, because there's still obviously parts of me that are enraged that centrists would support right wingers and fascists having a platform and things of that nature. It's going to take some time and some effort, but I just wanted to point that out before somebody, in the comment section points that out. It's difficult. It's difficult. It really is, because we have been fighting for so long. I mean, Steve and we didn't just pick this up in the last 2 years. This isn't something that we just started recently. I know I can speak 2001. I've been politically active. Steve goes way before that. So we've been battling liberals and centrists before it was cool, kids.
I'm really not.
We're not that old.
Older than you, but yes, it's yeah.
So it's not going to be easy to try to approach centrists and liberals and say, hey, look, fella, here are the facts. Let's have a conversation. You don't have to be afraid anymore of being the odd person out. There are other people who think like you. Get with the right side of history. Don't sit back and go lockstep with people into oblivion like they did in 1936 Germany.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, like we've talked about this before. Whenever neoliberalism collapses, or something that predates it, like monarchy, right,
Mm-hmm.
collapses, there's one of two things happen. They either go to a right wing fascist authoritarian government, or they go to a left wing communist but still authoritarian government. Like, we have not yet really, we've had pockets of like true Soviet states, or um, more anarcho socialist collectives
The
that,
true meaning of communism,
that
not the
pardon?
one label that's been thrown on the USSR. The actual definition of communism has never existed outside of communes and indigenous peoples.
Yeah, Soviets are independent autonomous states that meet collectively with as the central authority over a larger collective of Soviet states. What was it originally, like annually, monthly?
I think it
Can't
was.
remember in the
I think.
fucking book. It's been a minute.
I think the major issues when it came to regional was yearly. I think it was monthly for more local issues that were pressing.
At any rate, we've so far removed ourselves from that in practice because authoritarian communism is nearly always state capitalism in disguise, with fucking every single aspect of a right-wing dictator built into the system, with the possible exceptions of, let's go ahead and give these people some water before we torture them. Like, it's fucked up, dude. You look at like Robert Mugabe and fucking Mussolini, and there's really not much ideological differences between the two of them.
No, sadly, no. But that's the thing also that we need to walk liberals through is political ideology 101. Republicans in the right wing have done such a good job at distorting what political ideologies exist that people have no idea what a socialist is. They have no idea what a communist is. They have no idea what a libertarian is. They have no idea what a constitutionalist is. They don't even know that we're not a direct democracy.
Or a
Just throwing it out there.
representative republic, or whatever they fucking try to throw around and fucking put their fucking big boy heels on, fucking do the Adam Smith fucking dance and put, yeah, no, I know, man, I know. It's a republic, bullshit.
Exactly. We need to lift that veil. We need to, again, and like I said, I just showed earlier how difficult it is, because ingrained in people like Steve and I who've been doing this for a long time, there's that central premise that liberals are just as bad as the right wing, because they are willing to follow the right wing into hell if it protects their monetary value, if it protects their property, if it protects their money, if it protects their financial interests. They would go lockstep with fascists into hell, and we've known this, we've said this, we've shown this. So for us to try this new approach in trying to try to appeal to their better angels, if you will, to show them that the path that they're going on is a doomed one. That should be a goal that we should strive for, and it's going to be difficult and it's not going to be easy. Again, I illustrated that earlier by being mean about poor liberals, but it's one of those things that I think we need to broach, because I think we're past the point of no return. I think everything we do now just lessens the level of shit that we have to muck ourselves through, because there's no going back to a better situation. Environmentally, we're past the point of no return. Society, we have held down people of color, LGBTQ plus, women for so long. It's one of those things where it's all like half measures aren't going to do it. It's just at what point the economic system that we have, neoliberalism, capitalism in general, there's no redeeming these things. There have been too many sins committed in the last 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 years to just go, okay, half-hearted measures. We're so deep in it at this point that we need to address it, stop it now, and then try to cauterize the bleeding. We might lose an arm, we might lose a leg, but at least we'll live.
So um I kind of feel like the frogs a boiling, you know. I don't know if there's a way to unboil a frog. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
throwing in the
I
freezer.
don't want to sound too fatalistic. However, hang on just a minute. You talk for a second. Boiling frog.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be fatalistic per se. I know it sounds very nihilist. I am an active nihilist. I'll be the first to admit that. But we have done so many wrongs at this point that half-hearted measures just aren't going to work. We need to go for true equality. We need to truly go for an environmental strategy that begins to heal the earth. We need to go for more community-based solutions, as Steve has said in the past. We need to find methods that ends capitalism, and capitalism is cancer. And just because you go into socialism,
okay, this goes back to Christmas. All right, we need to fucking make people comfortable with saying, you know what, I hate Christmas. I'm not doing it. No, fuck all your shit. Fuck no, I'm not ordering off of Amazon. No. And if we can get comfortable admitting that we don't like Christmas, then we can fucking come around to the idea that, oh, we've only been doing this because we felt like everybody else wanted to do it and we were assholes for not. And oh, what else is like that?
Right. And
oh,
another thing too is people, I find when I talk to them about Marxism, they're worried about their personal property being taken. That has nothing to do with the situation. That's one of the biggest arguments I hear about liberals, saying, oh, well, socialism is really good in theory, but I don't want to lose my stuff. I like my stuff. We have to get out of the consumerism mentality, first off. Secondly, we need to stop being so damn materialistic. And third, moving toward Marxism doesn't mean you lose your fucking, your Maserati necessarily, or your house. It doesn't mean that, your house is now subject to having people squat in it whenever they want, because it's a community-owned thing. Private property is separated when it comes to Marxism. People need to stop being so damn ignorant about this, because capitalism is going to sell you lies. It's a malignant cancer that is going to continuously use up the resources of this world, including people, and spit it out until there's nothing left. And we need to help walk liberals through this. We need to help them understand that this is a simple fact, and the sooner you realize it, the better off we will all be.
I agree, man. I do. I want to circle back a little bit to your point about liberals will follow fascists into the pits of hell.
Yeah.
We, no matter how manufactured anyone may think World War II was, the Vichy France existed. They were the liberals, the pragmatic ones that saw that, well, these guys clearly have the upper hand and I don't want to lose my stuff, so I better side with them.
Right.
And fucking that's what the professional class, the pussy hat wearing fucking I fucking like. Kamala Harris is a really, really good choice for president of the. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, do you know how much dirt exists on Kamala Harris? Do you know that all of that dirt existed at least in the age of the handheld video camera? Like, it would be a rough election for her, man. It really, really would. You know? Like, I don't even...
We've gotten so ass backwards as a country that we can't even critique things that are I think it started with Hillary, to be honest, when you pointed out parts of her record that were questionable at best, absolutely horrendous, typically. that you were some type of misogynist. Now you have individuals in which I purposely go after Joe Biden as much and Hickenlooper, and I go after the whole field just to relay the fact that these are the issues with these candidates. This is why you can't go with them, because if we just focus on Senator Harris, Senator Warren, and Joe, we're ageist and misogynist and racist. So it's one of those things at the end of the day, if anybody with any common sense decided to look up their records individually, they would come to the conclusion that an airplane is flying overhead so low it's not even funny. But then one of those things, you would be able to see that these individuals do not have the people's best interest at heart. They don't advocate for the poor, regardless of their color, regardless of their sexual orientation or sex. They go after them. They hurt them up. They throw them in our prisons. They throw away the key. They keep the private industry complex going. These, just look into these people's records. It doesn't matter who they are. Look into Bernie Sanders' record. Look into everybody on the Democratic ticket. Do me that favor. And you'll see that what we're talking about isn't some type of hate-filled spew. It's simply, hey, guys, look, this is in their record. They did this. Do you want this to represent you?
Well, here's the thing, man. If you threaten someone's institutional security or their, I guess, their class privilege, their class-based security, they're going to retaliate, and they're going to side with whoever has the authority to protect their property and their interests. That's why fucking NPR liberals are the biggest goddamn cop collars you'll ever fucking meet. You know, yeah, you know what, dude? They will call the cops more often than the people with the fucking Blue Lives Matter fucking sticker on their car. Every fucking time. Every fucking time. It is goddamn ridiculous that, like, we have so many varying degrees of willing fucking bootlicker. Well, and then you've got like people who consider themselves leftists. And I'm going to put a chunk of Bernie Sanders supporters in this column, because there are a chunk of Bernie Sanders supporters that truly think that if Bernie Sanders becomes president and there's Justice Democrats that get elected along with him, then there will be a reformation and a transformation of the Democratic fucking Party.
Bernie Sanders isn't Martin Luther.
If you're pushing the narrative in 2019 that the Democratic Party can be transformed from the inside, you are willingly or unwillingly fucking peddling hope porn that is produced by fucking Mockingbird Media. 100% full stop.
Nope, don't disagree. I got about 10 minutes, but I want to touch on what you're saying, because you're spot on. And what it comes down to is these candidates are flawed. Bernie Sanders happens to be the least flawed of the group. And Tulsi is actually the least flawed, the absolute least flawed individual running, but she's been relegated to third-tier status and two-tier system. It's one of those things at the end of the day where we have to approach liberals in terms that they understand. When you were bringing up the NPR crowd, it's one of those things where they have financial interest because they are part of the elite. They don't have the interest of the people at hand. Anybody who gives a platform to a fascist doesn't have the people's interest at heart. Anybody who is willing to go along with the immigration fiasco that is currently in our world, anyone who's allowing African Americans and Latinos to constantly take up our prison system and be killed extrajudiciously by our police forces across the country, anybody who's allowed a member of the LGBTQ plus community be discriminated against or killed because of who they are, or try to go after their ability to love who they love. These are people who are false at the very best and lying sacks of shit, typically. Not at the worst. At the worst, they're just as bad as the fascists that they support, low key.
over the weekend or over the holiday, fucking CIA Pete said, like, at a fucking little picnic fundraiser thingy or meet and greet thingy, um, you know, it's darn shame that there's this institutional racism here in or that's evident in police forces, and you know it well, it makes it harder for the good cops to do their job because the real victims of institutional and systemic racism in the criminal justice system are the cops. The cops.
This is a Democratic darling, ladies and gentlemen.
Pete Buttigieg went on to say, and believe me, I know all about how institutional racism works in a police department because I fired the black police chief who brought it to my attention. Thank you very fucking much.
And yet he's considered a top-tier candidate.
He actually didn't say that, but
no, but that's what he did. That's what he did.
Yeah, but he did.
He would never have the integrity to say that.
Totally. And there's tapes, and he's still the mayor of that office, and he's still an active duty Navy intelligence officer.
Well, it's as I said, Pride parades and Pride Month is one of those things where there's so much work to do. We shouldn't ever settle at that point, and we shouldn't ever have to settle with half measures when it comes to African Americans and Latinos being persecuted under our current criminal justice system and being murdered by police. It's one of those things where women who are Latinas who make, I think, 68 cents on the dollar. African American women make, I believe it's 70 cents. And then whatever white women are pulling down, which is significantly more. But it's still wrong that they're not pulling down the same dollar a man is. When we have children who are going to schools in socioeconomically depressed areas, not receiving the full benefit of an education because of property taxes and redlining and literal institutional racism. You have teachers that make $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year, having to buy supplies and textbooks and things of that nature because of the poverty in those areas. It's astounding to me that Democrats or liberals, self-proclaimed liberals, would ever support the status quo, other than that it keeps their bank accounts nice and fat. But
so it's more than that though, because this comes back to the concept of pluralistic ignorance. This is what the narrative says I should do. This is how the narrative says I should feel. This is the reaction that everywhere I turn, people are having because that's what's being put in front of me. So you kind of have to, before you can have that conversation, any let's flip a liberal, you know, before you can do that, you have to point out that this concept exists in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to use these exact words, you know, but you have to point out that the concept exists and that it's been weaponized. That it's something that is not real. When you know that 72% of the country knows that the news is bullshit, but still continues to consume it because to do otherwise means you're ostracized.
Or 88% of the country is against Congress, and yet the same members of Congress are still there.
Yeah, because again, everybody hates Congress, but a lot of people love their particular Congress critter. Our Congress critter here got elected because his last name is Panetta. Like, that's why. I'm Leon Panetta's like nephew or kid or something like that.
Right.
What have you done? Oh, they put me in a fucking intelligence unit in the Middle East.
Right.
Oh, did they?
But
okay.
That's the thing is we got to find an approach that isn't quite, I mean, As you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't easy because we slip into that, duh, guys, duh, just duh. You're hypocrites, you're liars, etc. But if we go in with that approach, we've turned off those people that we're going to need at some point, because these people will slide into fascism. They will go along wherever the money goes. It's up to us to awaken them, if you will, to the reality of what this type of lifestyle, this type of belief system, and this type of politics will get you in the end. We are at late stage capitalism. We are where capitalism is going to strike back, like the Empire Strikes Back. We got Darth Vader and Palpatine all up in this thing.
You know what?
Back hard, it's going to come with fascism.
I don't own a TV for the sake of it being TV. I think we've been over this. There is one at one of the gigs that I have, and yesterday it was like their Star Wars marathon. Right. So I don't know if that's a synchronicity or if you got stuck watching Star Wars somewhere.
I was working. It's just coincidence.
I of course advocate an alternate future than the one that, or I guess past future, whatever the fuck Star Wars, whatever universe that exists in. I advocate a different one. I advocate the fully automated gay luxury space communism that Star Trek foretold. And I do think that as soon as we harness the dilithium crystal energy, we will be able to collectively ascend, leave money behind. We can leave the capitalists behind. We can. We can.
That's really what it boils down to. And it's not just economic theory, and it's not just
we can put a dome over Joel Osteen's compound. All right. Nice dome, big, beautiful dome, if you will. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And the capitalists can live there. It's a big compound. Shit, we'll give them Texas. You could fit the entire population of the planet in Texas.
Right.
I mean, they'd be standing shoulder to shoulder, but you could do it. We have that much available room left over.
Right. No.
And we could literally have a dome for all the people who agree with the flat earth theory. They could live within the dome. They could know that they were living in the dome. It would comfort them. Eddie Bravo could do stand-up like every night.
Hey.
Or every other night, and his metal band could play every other night. B.O.B. could play. Fucking, there's enough flat earthers in the NBA to have fucking playoffs. Right?
I bet you, Kyrie Irving.
Dude, I'm trying to cover bases here, because I would like to explore both inner and outer space collectively as one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. I think we've been over this before.
Let me play pragmatist real quick. For us to ever get there, we have to end capitalism at this point. We have to go to a system that stops disenfranchising and murdering people. We have to go to a system that actually promotes true equality. We have to go to a system that doesn't predicate on materialism and consumerism. We have to go to a system that is not going to rob natural resources, pollute our air, our water, and raise the temperature anymore. Going through California yesterday, I thought I was in hell's asshole in Redding, California.
It's a little known fact that when Satan rolls over and kind of like crab legs, right, for a little bit of a slap and tickle, his taint lands right smack dab on Redding, California. But his armpit, on like a one-handed back arch, his armpit would still be over Gary, Indiana. In fact, the entire region around Chicago, the northeast or northwest corner of the state of Indiana, that entire region there, which they lovingly and uniquely call the region, it really truly, no matter where you lay a human body on the map in like 4 of 6 directions, it is the armpit of America. I
Beautiful.
got stuck there once over a Christmas and in almost New Year's, and I had to fend off the advances of my friend's drunk dad. It was weird.
Nice.
Yeah. I slept in a restaurant because of that night.
Makes sense.
Yeah, in a booth. Hell
No,
yeah, I'm
no.
not going to tell you which one or where, because there are people that are probably still open. I will say this: the owner at the time used to drive around this county with a Perrier bottle that he would frequently refill with champagne.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up here, but if I could leave anything for anybody to pick up from this, try to do better than what we did in this last period of time when it comes to approaching a liberal. We could talk amongst ourselves and say this stuff, but we really need to approach these people, because I don't think most of them do this with the intent to slide toward fascism. I think they think that they're doing good by people and that they're truly for equality and truly for environmental restoration, that they're truly for criminal justice reform and economic justice reform. I think they truly think that. But I think that pluralistic ignorance, where we have people that are within the Democrat Party that go, I don't think we really represent that, but don't say anything because of fear of being ostracized. We need to find those first. And then we need to start reaching out and branching out to liberals across the board, because I don't think those that aren't inside the power structure, the Joe Bidens, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, those that are super wealthy within the Democrat Party, those are the enemy. Those are the people that will constantly tell these people who are not as well versed in politics as we are, that are not that well versed in history, anthropology, social sciences as we are, economics, throw that in there for as a caveat. We need to educate. We don't need to talk down to. We don't need to be pompous and arrogant about it, but we need to have a conversation with these liberals and say, look, I know you think you're coming from a good place, but here's why you're not. And I think if we start to open that dialogue rather than just bashing them over the head with obvious things. And right there, ladies and gentlemen, was a physical manifestation of me holding back from saying something negative. It physically hurt me, but I did it, which shows that any of you can do it too.
Oh, wow.
On that note, love everybody. Hit me up in the comments section. Tell me I'm an asshole or the greatest guy ever. One of those two things.
Fucking hilarious. I'm going to hang out with the chat here for a minute.
All right, brother.
As always, Jay, thank you, man.
Oh, no worries. And thanks everybody for watching. And like I said, please leave comments. We want to talk back with you.
Have a good night, brother. All right. Wow. That was Jason Carney, ladies and gentlemen. He's God, man, he's idealistic. He really is. I love how much hope he puts into that. So here's what's up, Miss Tree? What's up, Chris? What's up, Celeste? How are y'all? Completely disconnected from reality, but any amount of money that Trump has ever been. Okay, so trust fund kids ruin everything. Trump is a trust fund kid. He's going to ruin everything. Of course, he's never been hungry. He's one of those people that would likely go 10 minutes without food and then be starving and scream for food because he's starving. When you, I don't know, man. Really, trust fund kids ruin everything. There's peanut butter whiskey. Do you think anyone other than a fucking trust fund kid is behind something like peanut butter whiskey? I fucking guarantee you that during the collapse of Rome, there were people that were drinking the equivalent of peanut butter whiskey. Um, those comfortable liberals exist knowing that empires are doomed by their hubris, their decadence, and their always having to sustain never-ending war. We know this. It's you can be any part on the political spectrum and understand this idea because you can point to it from the fucking time that we started recording this shit. And I will be the first person to admit that I don't think that you can believe the narrative in a fuck ton of what we call history, but you can point to the collapse of empires and the reasons why you can't sustain never-ending war no matter how much confusion you manufacture. Consent, you said something earlier about manufacturing consent, Celeste, and I fucking I don't know if you caught it earlier in the show. We did kind of address that. Consent was manufactured. They did that. Consent got manufactured. We're fucking cool as a country, not me, not you, but we're as a country cool with this never-ending war now. Barack Obama did a fucking brilliant job at putting most of what was a genuine increasing number of anti-war Americans, putting them to sleep, and shutting down reporting on a lot of it, and getting a Nobel Peace Prize, and then quietly bombing 5 other countries, quietly keeping a kill list of American citizens, quietly reauthorizing the NDAA to include legalized propaganda, quietly killing a U.S. citizen, 16-year-old, because of who his father was. Shit like that, man. The consent for that was already manufactured. What became necessary and what we exist in right now is manufactured confusion. We've got 6 companies that own 95% of all media that is represented in hundreds of outlets. Those 6 companies are all reporting from AP, Reuters, and the European equivalent of AP. They're getting their talking points from what is essentially Five Eyes, which is the 5 intelligence agencies of a little social club, we'll call it. Where all that needs to happen is conflicting narratives set within the same overall neoliberal to fascist ideology, framed that way. That's what fucking cable debate shows are. You've got guy representing the batshit crazy right wing, guy representing kind of the moderate batshit right wing, and a moderator who is a fucking actor who fucking practices newsman face in the mirror instead of doing goddamn fucking journalism. You've got that guy pretending that one of them represents the conservative point of view and one of them represents the liberal point of view. That's fucking manufactured confusion because they're debating within a preset narrative that is always centered around, well, here's why it's a good idea to bomb this country and invade this country and destabilize this country, but I think we should go about it this way. Bullshit, you're a pussy, here's why. We should just storm it. That's the fucking narrative. Diplomacy almost always means crippling fucking sanctions when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. Problem, reaction, solution. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Hegelian dialectic, as above, so below. There's there's so many different ways to frame it, and I think that a lot of people that are involved in the truth community or the conspiracy community, if you want to fucking throw the talking point out there, I think that because there's so many different angles that sort of lead you to the same conclusion, but the direction that you come by the same conclusion, because of the way the narrative has been preset and pre-manipulated, it's hard for people to communicate within a community where most people agree on the same shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Insider traders is every time you have a good idea, every time you actually want to advance basic human rights or civil liberties or worker rights, you automatically get infiltrators. You automatically get people who come to sabotage that movement, and that's why I think fucking Antifa is controlled opposition. I don't fucking like, if there's not two fucking cops, agents, whatever, you fucking member of some sort of law enforcement agency for every single fucking person in a black mask, I will come and build your house for free. You can prove to me that there aren't two agents for every fucking one fucking pink-haired, black skinny jeans fucking 103-pound fucking warrior. You can do that. I will build you a house for free. Vice with Christian Slater. I can't do Vice, man. I can't. It's always been war porn for hipsters, and they threw out some fucking decent shows, but any business that started out with like Gavin McInnes and Bill Maher hanging out going, we should fucking launch a news organization together. And I know Vice has done some like decent work with different fucking I guess filmmakers and hosts and shit like that, like Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, interesting and almost always accurate and informative show. But there's too many dirty hands involved with Vice, and I understand that it started out as a YouTube show. I think I'm pretty sure it did. But Gavin McInnes and Bill Maher and fucking then they got all the fucking dragons and titties money, and every quote unquote news show on HBO was all pushing out the exact same narrative from fucking like season 2 or 3 of Dragons and Titties currently. You know, it's oh, the movie Vice. Well, I guess I fucking haven't. I don't know. Yeah, I have kids, and I don't really go. I haven't seen like a movie in fucking almost a decade or more that like I haven't maybe tried to watch at night when I get home from work or whatever, and I get about 3/4 of the way into it. Maybe. It took me like 4 sittings to watch Deadpool. I will have to check it out. Oh, the movie, but no, huh? Is that the fucking, who's Dick Cheney in that movie? There's some fucking, yeah. I'm not, do I need to sit through that shit to understand just how fucking deeply, cripplingly corrupt fucking Dick Cheney is or was, or who stood to gain from Iraq, or if it's like, I don't know. there's so much that we could really dump out onto the fucking plate in regards to Dick Cheney and George Bush and the Iraq War and 9/11, fucking Project for a New American Century and Mossad. And, it is possible that a midget or two may come storming out onto the deck at any point. Our niece is over, and my 7-year-old is already 50 pounds of crazy in a 5-pound bag. Majority of the time, barefoot mountain kid, redwood duff stomping, fucking what is it? Free range kid? Is that what they call them? I don't know. It's non-helicopter parented. Our friend Lindsay was here. I think that was last week. Who does the show Rogueways, and I did a build out in her van so that she can more comfortably travel this here country, and over that was my youngest son's 7th birthday, and afterwards she was like, wow, that was crazy. I haven't seen that in a really long time, where like grown-ups are doing their thing and kids are doing their thing, and no one is hovering and no one is being an asshole to the, like, you know, and like it was weird. Yeah, that's what they kind of have a lot of room to play. I don't know. But I guess it's part of the whole concept to take away public spaces and force people onto their surveillance devices to oh wow, that's awesome. I think they're trying so hard not to be loud. All right. Sorry. Will I be doing an interview with Sam Tripoli when he was in the area? I wanted to support him in Bakersfield before he blocked me for a question. I fucking wow. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but that's not children screaming out of whoa. It's children screaming because they're wound up and excited. And anywho, you know what, Chris? I didn't get a hold of Sam today. I'm going to shoot for that sometime later tomorrow afternoon. Because I know there's no point in trying to call somebody who is a fucking stand-up comedian like before 3 o'clock on a weekend or Monday. I saw that. I don't know what happened. I can't speak for anybody's motives. I don't know what he thought or what was going on. I am going to try and get him on the show again. I really enjoyed having him on the show last time. So, yeah, I mean, he's playing at DNA's Comedy Lab in Santa Cruz next weekend or the weekend after that or something like that. I'm going to try to put that together. It was fairly easy to go and sit down with Lee Camp before his show in Santa Cruz. I don't know why. It would be, I don't know. I'm not fucking, I'd like to, so yes, we'll see. I do have a podcast interview with Whitney Webb coming up on Thursday, and there should hopefully be I should hopefully be able to live stream that from the studio and then have the edited version up, or at least the version with the intro and the outro and shit. Have that up later that evening or the following day. I'm stoked on that. If you guys are unfamiliar with Whitney Webb, please go look at her work in Mint Press News. She is doing actual fucking journalism. Mint Press is one of the few outlets that exist to punch up, not just repeat the talking points out of the halls of power. Yeah, they do good work. Yeah, they're yeah. No, I got to go out and play and don't come home till dark too. I did. We were, you know, and if I had anywhere to escape at my house to do this show besides like out onto my deck, they would be right over there on that trampoline, and they will be soon. But man, it's pretty much every place up here, unless they're new or unless you have a fuck ton of money to throw into a swap, has single pane windows and no or next to no insulation, so it makes for very thin walls. So even if you're on the opposite side of the house, you can more or less hear what's going on in the next room. So it's or across the house. It's fucking, yeah. Anywho, I'm gonna go ahead and bounce. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. My name is Steve Boykin, and this has been Slow News Day, and good luck to us all.